Okay, welcome back, everyone. Now for the last two speakers of the conference. So our next speaker, if for all those people who have visited the Dunhuang exhibition, will have already experienced his work, because there's a soundscape in the speaker system giving you a more kind of oral experience of the exhibition, combining many musical traditions of the region, and that's the work of our next speaker. That's Dr. Xiaoshi Wei. Now, he's the director of the China database for traditional music in Beijing, and he conducts many sound collecting activities relating to ethnic music and traditional music all over China, and he's also a research associate at SOAS. So Dr. Wei Xiaoshi's talk is Plurality and Transformation, the Music of Dunhuang. Please welcome Dr. Wei.
Thank you. It's so nice to see many of you being interested in the music of Dunhuang and the Silk Road. My name is Xiaoshi Wei. I'm an ethnomusicologist and sound archivist. It is my pleasure to introduce some contemporary musical ideas and practices of Dunhuang and Silk Road today, and also, as you heard in the exhibition. Dunhuang sounds, by and large, represent the sonic world of China and its peripherals. Historically and today, the imagination of sonic scenes around Dunhuang has inspired generations of artists to recreate their musical image of China and the Silk Road. The concept of Dunhuang sound, what we say Dunhuang 的声音, is obscure sometimes for many people, but it has been de facto largely practiced and researched in China. I'm borrowing my colleague Kwang Lanlan's term, China-scapes, to describe the complexity of arts built around Dunhuang in China and overseas. So this presentation is not solely about the conventional focal point of the content of Dunhuang's music, because there is a gazillion amount of literature on it. Rather, this presentation is about the relationship between history, objects, and musical ideas to their contemporary practice. This presentation also questions the modern relationship in the musical domain and at an individual level between Dunhuang and the non-Chinese Silk Road nations. As sound archivists trained in the field of ethnomusicology, we primarily look at sound collections and documents from public and private archives. As you will see in my examples, there will also be published and unpublished texts that accompany and annotate the sound, helping us to figure out the meanings of people and the meanings of music to its people. First, let's explore how the symbolic images of Dunhuang, which has been carried over into the country's wider national arts. As an interesting example would be the famous national cultural treasure, Beijing opera artist Mei Lanfang's piece, 天女散花, the heavenly maiden scatters flowers. The Dunhuang grottos inspired the design of character images. From clothing and headwear to body movements, Mei Lanfang referenced the images of flying to the sky image in his stage art. A similar case is shown here in the playing the pipa in reverse theme, Fantan Pipa, in which an image of Dunhuang is widely and heavily applied publicly. These two examples are only the tip of the huge iceberg, which represents how Dunhuang's artistic motifs are applied in contemporary musical practice in China. I will now summarize 4 distinct types of musical practice through which Dunhuang artistic legacy is reflected in China. First, musical pieces derived from extant Dunhuang scores, which is mostly commonly known. And second, musical compositions based on an imagination of Dunhuang's historical past. And third, traditional pieces that are currently played in today's Dunhuang's regions. And finally, instrumental pieces played on instruments which are believed to appear on Dunhuang's murals. Among the four types, the type 1, 2, and 4 are widely known throughout the Sinophone world. First, the most commonly known practice is to restore historical musical scores found in Dunhuang, primarily known in the Dunhuang collections in France. Here, imagination is key. In the past, the people of Dunhuang created images or scores based on their imagination of cultures from the West and the East. And today, people, again, based on these mural images and musical scores, recreate new sounds. Shown here, the book is written by Xi Zhenguan, the former president of Dunhuang Arts and Research Theater. His book became one of the very early publications of modern interpretations of Dunhuang's ancient scores. And more importantly, this is with accompanying audio examples played by renowned pipa player Wu Yuxia. There are also great examples by Professor Liu Hongjun, an overseas Chinese musician and composer based in Japan. His approach is to restore both scores and instruments and mingle these two layers in his stage presentation. So I'm quoting Liu Hongjun's own words from our personal communication. He said, "We're working on 25 pieces from Dunhuang's Cave 17. We know that they came from different geographical regions with divergent national ethnic flavors. This piece, 右慢曲子西江月, is with a background of Jiangnan, the lands of the south of the lower reaches of the Yangtze River. It brings a life thing alongside the Yangtze River that slowly and peacefully flows." So let's listen to Liu Hongjun's rendition of a Dunhuang piece that reflects the Chinese South. It is a great example showing the wide range of contemporary imagination of Dunhuang's ancient scores. There are also pieces that are believed to reflect life in the western corridor to Dunhuang in the current eastern Xinjiang. One piece, this piece, highlight excerpts from the Yizhou Kumul suites, describes the mixed imagery of frontier life from the perspective of imperial soldiers and the transient businessman in the Yizhou Kumul region. And this region is a historically important point between Chinese nomadic and Indo-European civilizations. This piece was originally transcribed by Professor Chen Yingshi in Shanghai and further polished and developed by Professor Dunhuang in Xinjiang. As part of the Soundscape project, we organized a recording session in Urumqi, the capital of Xinjiang, where the musical legacy of Dunhuang is inherited. As Dunhuang always believes a pluralistic, united musical experience encompassing national and modern nations, the organizers of this recording session invited one Chinese pipa player and two Uyghur musicians on hijab and dap drum. So let's listen to it. You probably have listened to it many times over the conference, and complete stage presentation, Professor Dunhuang developed 4 movements based on his understanding of the literary texture of music and so-called frontier poetry, 边塞诗, in the Sui and Tang dynasty, as well as folk songs from various places of Gansu and Xinjiang. As you can see, it's a kind of mixture of different understanding of historical imaginations to really, if you want to restore and play the scores of Dunhuang. And to give another case, I gained an example from my Indiana University alumnus friend, Professor Kuang Lan, who just published an excellent monograph on Dunhuang's expressive arts in 2024. Her current and earlier work summarize many examples of music made around Dunhuang's historical imaginaries. In this example, Huteng dance, meaning a type of dance called nomadic lip, was introduced to China along the Silk Road via Turkic-speaking merchants in the 8th century. And this piece was composed on both Tang Dynasty poet Li Duan's frontier poetry, 边塞诗, and people's general imagination of Turkic dance in this ancient times. So the piece name is Dance of the Whirling Nomads. Similar example can be found in composer Wu Fei's piece Lou Lan, which you should be also very familiar with, which is being used as part of the sound collage work at the exhibition. Here is it. Yeah, no need to play it much. In addition, there's a variety of musical instruments extracted from Dunhuang's visuals, like that one. A typical modern narrative of such historical connection to modern Chinese instruments is the konghou harp. Along with pipa, both of the instruments are mostly commonly known in such kind of practices. In China, you can find a lot of audiovisual products. Some contain substantial work that relates to specific Dunhuang's motifs, instruments, and scores, like the ones I just introduced. Well, some, maybe most others, are purely based on subjective and vague imaginaries of Dunhuang, which are mostly mingled with impressions of, quote, Chinese Silk Road, end of the quote. Finally, there are also some lesser-known presentations of Dunhuang's current local music. Among these local musics, Dunhuang Baojuan, meaning the local precious scrolls, is perhaps the closest type to Dunhuang's historical narratives, and is being framed in China's state intangible cultural heritage agenda. Here's an official video made by the local governments of Dunhuang for the Jiuquan, or for the intangible cultural heritage promotion.
宝卷又名宝传、面卷、唱卷，是一种流行于明清以来的民间讲唱文学。在敦煌遗书中，有相当数量的俗讲文学讲本、变文、讲经文、词文等。这些讲唱文学直接孕育出了一种新讲唱形式——敦煌宝卷。在传统农业社会，文化生活相对贫乏，敦煌宝卷成为百姓文化生活的一是反映社会生活的，二是民间神话传说故事，三是表达历史人物，四是寓言和童话故事，五是宗教内容。由于
I now like to turn to the relevance of Dunhuang to the other non-Chinese Silk Road nations. In the musical domain, both Dunhuang and the Silk Road have come to serve as metaphors. which define specific musical imaginaries. These metaphorical understandings do not always overlap. So, how can these two concepts coexist in audible sounds and their narratives? That's a very big and important question. Taking examples from making the soundscape for the exhibition, I will show that specific nuances of Dunhuang relate to different artists in different ways. These connections can be based on self-expressed cultural identity and musical forms that are reportedly attached to such identity. Just like what you saw in the concert last night, people draw links between sounds and images that echo the sing of Dunhuang. It is the same way that many non-Chinese musicians do. I'm now showing you the promotional video on our soundscape work. It's an interview of myself and Shuhrat Noor, who's sitting there, a UK-based Uyghur musician.
Muzika o'xshash bir coğrafiyadagi madaniyatlarning o'zaro madaniyat almashtirishida ishlatiladigan eng unumli quroli deyishga bo'ladi.
In the creation of the soundtracks for this Dunhuang's exhibition, it is really important to have inclusiveness and diversity. It's not only about the sonic legacy of the Chinese-speaking people, but it's also about the Turkic-speaking people, the Tibetan-speaking people, and the Persian-speaking people who historically made inputs into Dunhuang.
Mush ovoz turi Qashqarda eng jiq ishlatildi. Men Qashqa yomg'iri degan, o'zim Qashqarda tug'ilgan, Qashqa yomg'iri degan asarda mushu ovoz turini ishlatishni o'yladim. Andan keyin men bu Qashqaga munosabatli Qashqaga bo'lgan seg'inishimni.
After visiting the exhibition, Shuhrat was inspired to create his original piece for the exhibition called the 8th Century, using dutar, the instrument he's holding here, to illustrate the relationship between contemporary Uyghur groove and the Manichean Uyghurs in the 8th century. It is generally believed that the traces of ancient Uyghur culture of the 8th century can be felt in the present day. So it can also be said that modern Uyghurs are important inheritors of the Dunhuang manuscripts. As one of the most essential plucked instrument on the Silk Road, the dutar not only links multiple ethnic groups inside the Persian cultural sphere, but also provides a path for these ethnic groups to have connections with the Chinese culture.
Muzika
Most of the soundscape ambience background music was played by Anwar Khan, a Kazakh musician who lives in Xinjiang and Kazakhstan. And this piece presents the sound of rock images on the central step, which depict ancestral narratives, worldview, and hidden history and human nature dialogue. According to, let's listen first. According to Anwar, the instrument Sat Sernai flute has an atmospheric timbre that he sought to enrich by overdubbing multiple tracks of its sound, recreating the feelings of a steppe ritual. The soundscape work uses this piece as a sonic introduction to the word steppe, linking the sedentary civilizations in words of Dunhuang to a nomadic word that connects to the god of the sky. For some Kazakh musicians who were raised in China, Dunhuang means an ancient and strange place, whose modern media images made by the Chinese state encompasses their own national identity. You can hear strangeness in this piece by a famous musician, Mamur, called Dunhuang. I'll show you a little bit. similar tension and conflict and evil imagery that symbolize the turbulent history of the Silk Roads can also be heard in Anwar's plays, part of which was applied in the background of sound of the music. But this is the outtake part. That doesn't really being played in the exhibition hall. So for both musicians, the birth of modern Dunhuang itself is an outcome of turmoil. So as such, the tension and uneasy sound of this piece might call to mind the darker and more conflicted sonic history of Dunhuang. The inclusion of the santur within the exhibition symbolizes a significant influence of Persia on the Silk Road, echoing the number of historical manuscripts in this exhibition related to ancient Indo-European cultures. The santur is a key instrument that has been developed into many other variations like the Uyghur Qiang and the Chinese Yangqin. Finally, we included Tibetan folk song in this exhibition. You probably have recognized this immediately. I'll play 3 seconds. This piece, Holy Mountain, is a work by Dunhuang Ludup, a Tibetan artist based in the UK. He pays tribute to Mount Kailash in Western Tibet with his unique bardic vocal and mandolin accompaniment. Mount Kailash is a holy place for Buddhism, Hinduism, and Jainism, places where different faiths meet are common in many Tibetan areas, symbolizing the ongoing interaction of local culture and foreign beliefs, and making Tibet a place of cross-cultural inheritance. This is a conclusion. So, in the examples given in this presentation, artists constructed visions of Dunhuang according to metaphorical renaissance with their own words. The Chinese approach is central to the current discourse of Dunhuang's music and involves a diverse array of expressions made on detailed imaginaries drawn from murals and scrolls. For non-Chinese artists, musical impressions might be created around an imagination of cultural exchange in a certain place, like the Tibetan case, or on a certain instrument, like the dutar, sat, sernai, and santur, or in relation to certain social historical conditions, like the turbulent sonic expression in the work of Mahmud and Anwar. Today, ancient images of Dunhuang are sonically being transformed. Ideas of music, national history, and identity have also been transformed in the evolving establishment of today's Dunhuang sound. More importantly, what we consider the sound of Dunhuang is being transformed from a central unitary understanding to a diverse, pluralistic array of meanings and expressions. As Dunhuang's historical imaginary become increasingly accessible to the wider public in this social media world age, I'm sure that more narratives and musical forms will develop as a result, particularly from the non-Chinese communities and individuals engaging with these materials of Dunhuang. So I welcome comments and questions, and my email address is there. Thank you very much.